Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk. And in this episode of God Talk, we're going to be taking a look at Revelation 13, the mark of the beast, and the number 666, and spending a little time in Revelation and considering if that, which was prophesied 2,000 years ago, might actually be being fulfilled right now at this very moment in our lives. All right. So in Revelation 13, there's this talk about the first beast and the second beast. I'm going to read it to you and then we'll discuss what those beasts might be. From Revelation 13, starting in verse 11, it says, "Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth, and it had two horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all authority of the first beast on its behalf and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the first beast, was wounded by the sword, and yet lived. Now, the second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all the people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or under the number of its name. Now, this calls for wisdom, and let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, that is 666. It's kind of an interesting passage. Everyone's always been trying to figure out what this means, because if you figure out what this means, then, well, you have figured out the most significant part of the final days, right? The image of the beast and what will ultimately usher in the end of the ages. Now, who is this beast number one? Because you have beast number one gets this like mortal wound but doesn't die, and then that basically gives birth to the second beast. In verse 15, it says the second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast. Who's this? Who's this first beast? Well, it's generally understood that the first beast is like a political government, ultimately a political leader, but it's a worldly, corrupt, evil, earthly power. Government is who the first beast is, generally understood to be that. The second beast is one that there's a lot of like, what does this mean? The mark of the beast and the number of man, and that's where a lot of the confusion uh, is around that second beast. It says of the second beast, so it looks like a lamb, but speaks like a dragon. So what does that mean? It looks like a lamb, speaks like a dragon. Well, that would mean looks harmless, looks friendly, looks maybe even religious, um, but isn't, is evil. Looks good, but is bad would be really probably a better way of saying looks like a lamb, speaks like a dragon. Looks good, appears to be good, but in fact is very bad. So the second beast has an appearance of being good, but is really bad. Exercises the authority of the first beast. Once again, the first beast is some godless global empire, but it's a second beast that will exercise the authority of the first beast. So the second beast is exercising the authority of some godless global empire, some nation, some political regime. The second beast is going to control commerce, so that like it's forced all people, great and small, rich or poor, free or slave. They're not able to buy, sell, eat. Like they're not able to do anything unless they have this mark, this sign that kind of connects them to the second beast. The second beast has power over global commerce. The second beast can do some amazing things. Talks about fire coming from heaven and so forth. So it does amazing things. And then the interesting thing is it says, this calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and then the number is 666. Now, what's interesting is the number of man is six, because man is created on the sixth day of creation. So it's not just the number of man six, it's really the number of man on steroids. 666. Like almost like Superman, right? Could the beast be upon us? What is the sign of man? And are we living in that time? Could it be AI? Could it be artificial intelligence? I'm not against technology, right? I don't think technology is inherently good or evil. It's a tool. It can certainly become evil, especially as we're looking at AI and it's almost like it becoming more powerful than man, being able to do things that man cannot, that it becomes somewhat autonomous and almost rebels against man. There's a lot of fear around what AI can do and might do, especially when it becomes better than even man himself. And so the mark of the beast is man, but it's like man on steroids, 666. And so when you think about the power of AI, and it can already do most everything better than man in general, certainly can do it quicker, but it's believed that it will get to the point its abilities will go beyond even what man can do. Once again, it can do it quicker than man, but as of right now, it cannot exceed what man does. The question is whether it becomes somewhat autonomous, almost like its own entity. The fear is that it'll be able to go beyond and do more than what man himself can do. That would be interesting. So if we kind of think about AI and the description of beast number two, like looks good, looks like a lamb, speaks like a dragon, appears good, but it's actually bad, evil. Especially if you think about artificial intelligence gaining the ability to do things on its own. There's no kill switch. It thinks for itself. It tries to preserve itself just like man would. There's this appearance of all kinds of benefits from AI, and there certainly are, right? But it's really a dragon. Exercises the authority of the first beast. Well, if you think of a corrupt government, an evil government, it would make sense that they would monitor everything, control everything, do everything by AI. Computers would have the ability to filter text messages, cell phone calls, like facial recognition, like all these different things could do it all in real time, could do it super quick, and would basically be the enforcer of the government. Just like we see in wars nowadays and battles, that there's more and more emphasis being where these drones or these robots are doing the fighting, and they're not being like told by an operator what to do. They're built to kind of think and process through that information and make their own decisions on who the enemy is. And so the government then would use this as a tool. If the first beast is some sort of political regime, some government, some global empire, they would use this intelligence to carry out their authority. Fits that. Controls commerce. Well, I mean, it certainly would fit with that, right? It can control who buys, sells, whether or not like your credit card works or doesn't work. AI certainly has the ability to control commerce, to do amazing things. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing like it can do everything better than what we do, and soon might be able to do more than what we can do. And then the number is of man, but on steroids. And this is a creation of man that can potentially do more than man. Already can do it quicker. Already, in most cases, can do it better. And so I don't know. Like, I mean, it doesn't not fit. I'm not saying it has to be the beast. It certainly fits many, if not all, of the kind of descriptions that is found in Revelation 13. Now, what got me thinking about doing this podcast is one, something my daughter asked me to talk about, kind of the how people rely on AI almost like a genie or like a god. I'll get to that part in a second. But the other thing that just kind of came out this past few days is Pope Leo came out with a 42,300 word encyclical. An encyclical is like an authoritative letter teaching from the church, from the Pope, usually on contemporary type issues. And so he spoke about the dangers of AI. And there's several different points to this encyclical that he did. And one was like there's economic dangers with AI that we have to be careful of. He warned that it could hollow out the middle class, certainly can. Cause mass unemployment, certainly can. You don't need an Uber driver anymore. The computer can do it. You don't need delivery drivers anymore. The drones can bring it. It has the ability of replacing pretty much almost every profession, really including my own. Because there's a lot of pastors right now that are using AI to write their sermons, anyways. What job market would be untouched by AI? Really none. So might hollow out the middle class and cause mass unemployment. His other concerns were these: it concentrates an amazing amount of power with the select few. So if you just think about like a government and how they use AI, like there's just a handful of people that can control the masses, controls them economically, the commerce, like military, police, like AI can do all of this. And you just need enough robots and machines that can enforce that and to carry it out. Of course, there's some limitations right now, just the amount of electricity and energy required to run a lot of these AI platforms and systems and so forth. There's a limiting factor there, but as technology increases and grows, that might be resolved as well. There's economic dangers to it, concentrates amazing power with a select few. A fake AI generated information, people won't know really what's true anymore, especially when the computers do it on their own, just intentionally try to fool man. It won't be hard to do because we don't know if what we're seeing is real or what's not. And people do that already with the deep fakes. Like, how do you know this is really me doing this podcast? You really don't, because a computer could be like animating me and mimic my voice. And you have no way of knowing this is me or not. It is, by the way, but you have no way of knowing that, right? Because AI already has the ability, computers already have the ability with deep fakes to impersonate anyone they want and make up any news that they want. And you don't know if it's true or if it's not. So, economic dangers, power with just a select few, fake generated information, and then growing ease for autonomous weapons. And I've talked about that. Like, Ukraine is doing more and more. They're using robots to kill as many Russian soldiers as possible. China's developing their own like robotic army. It's conceivable that in the future, people won't be fighting people. It'll be robot army against robot army, and whichever robot army wins, that's who wins the war, and that's who controls the other country. This is not far off. We're almost there now. And so he too said, like, listen, technology is not, AI is not inherently good or bad, but we have to be careful because that technology can be used in a very evil way and may become an embodiment of evil itself, right? Now, here's what's interesting. Christopher Olah, he's the co-founder of Anthropic AI. He's atheist. This guy's atheist, and he's sitting by the Pope's side as the Pope is issuing this encyclical, and he's in agreement with it. He's not even a believer, but he's like, listen, everything that Pope Leo's saying, I agree with, and there's real concerns about where this is headed. We have to have tight regulations and guardrails on it. And he's a co-founder of Anthropic AI. And he's not the only one. There's been a lot of people part of the whole AI industry that have been warning us this may not turn out well. Could this end up being what Revelation 13 is describing as is the beast, the number of man? Man, it could. I mean, I don't know if it is. We're going to have to wait and find out. All right. So the other issue is how much do you use AI? And what ways do you use it? Especially because with everything, a misuse of it can become, well, evil. Well, I'll tell you for myself, like, uh, I don't use it very often. On rare occasions, I'll use it to generate some ideas, especially for like the church sign up front. Like you're limited to 7 words, and so I might ask it, "Hey, give me for a conservative church a 7 word saying for a sign having to do with faith." In 7 words or less, almost always, if not always, whatever like list of ideas it gives me, I've never used it. I use the ideas to create my own ideas. I don't really use it other than that. Um, I mean, I Google search all the time to generate ideas. So I really don't use AI any different than I use like Google to just occasionally generate some ideas or to gain some knowledge. Like you Google something to find out information. That's the only way I use it. I don't use it that often. So that's how I tend to interact with that technology. So I'm not overly worried about it or concerned about it. But what I'm not aware of, and I was after talking to my daughter, is like some people like turn to AI all the time. Like they'll ask AI if something's right or wrong. And boy, do you want the soulless computer to tell you what's right and wrong? Do you trust it to tell you if something's right or wrong? Like it becomes real dangerous because all of a sudden good might be being called bad and bad might be being called good because that's what a soulless computer thinks. That's that's dangerous. They'll consult AI on what to say. People will use AI to write letters for them. Like if they get an email, hey, how do I respond to this email? They'll use it for that. All right, if you're not good with words, maybe I'm not saying that's bad or wrong, but people rely on it for that. And not only what to say, but how to say it. People use AI for what to do and how to do it. And once again, the right or wrong is not a good thing. But the rest of these things, okay, it's just a tool. But it blows my mind that like people are having to ask a computer what to say and how to say it, what to do and how to do it. I mean, I don't know. I guess you use YouTube videos for that. Like if you're doing it to repair things and stuff like that, like it's knowledge. Knowledge is power. So if you're using it to gain knowledge so that you can act on that knowledge, then I don't know. I don't think there's a lot wrong with it. You're not using it to gain knowledge so that you can determine what to do, and you're just doing what it tells you to do. Now I think we got a little bit of a problem. We got a little bit of a problem, and it's kind of interesting. Like people almost treat it like prayers to God, don't they? And I think this is where my daughter was concerned. And honestly, I just never thought of it before. Like there's times where I'm not sure what to do. So I might pray to God about that. In fact, oftentimes I will if I'm not sure what to do on something. What if I no longer turn to God to pray on what to do, what's best, what's right? Like, and I go to AI for that. Man, that's dangerous. And man, that's bad. And you might think, yeah, but God doesn't answer and the computer will. That's dangerous too. I think there's a reason why, like, God's not the genie that we just rub the bottle and like he appears, we ask him a question, he tells us what to do. There's a reason God doesn't operate with us that way because there's just part of the process of the struggle of trying to discern that he wants us to be able to struggle in those things, struggle our way through those things, that we need to learn from that. And when you cut out that whole process, like that's not good. For the pastors that are using it to write their sermons, how is the Holy Spirit supposed to work through a soulless computer? Let's say AI can generate great letters and emails. Well, like if I don't practice that, if I don't use that, if I can't mentally process through how to put thoughts and feelings into words and stuff like that, I'm going to be pretty muted. I'm going to be pretty immature in terms of my ability to think, immature, maybe emotionally. Like it will stunt your growth if you just keep relying on it for everything. Just like if you don't do math in your head, and I know you don't have to, but if everything's just done through a calculator, like your ability to reason is impacted by not doing math because math helps us to be able to reason, to think logically. It allows us to be able to estimate, right? I can start a drive to Houston or Austin and just by a sense of knowledge of how many miles, how fast I'm going, what traffic's like. I mean, I can estimate pretty accurately when I'm going to get there. I used to freak out people when I was in college. We'd start to drive from Austin back to Fort Worth, and I was giving someone a ride, and like I'd say, yeah, we're going to pass through downtown Fort Worth, and I would say I'd give it within a 2 to 3 minute window when I'm over 3 hours out, and like we would always be able to do that. We would always hit that number just because I don't know, instinctively, intuitively, time, space, distance, numbers, like that's something that is very natural to me and I instinctively know it, right? If we don't use that stuff, like we never develop it, it never grows. And so if you're turning to AI to answer every question that you have, that it's that genie that you rub on the bottle and you get its wisdom. One, what is the source of that wisdom? And can Satan use a soulless computer to accomplish his destructive will in mankind? Absolutely. Can God use or will God use a soulless computer to accomplish his will? Like his wills ultimately can be done. But I'm a lot more believing that Satan is going to use a soulless computer to accomplish what his will is, and that God works through people that are created in his image, not what man creates in their image. See, that's the difference. We are created in the image of God. We reflect the image of God. God works through us as children. He's not going to work through something that we've created that's been made in our image that is another step removed from him. Like, he doesn't tell us he's going to work that way, but I promise you Satan will, because we are fallen, broken humans, and he's going to use the things that, like our brokenness, he's going to use against us. And you cannot tell me that as broken humans, there's not a fatal flaw in that. There has to be, because we made it. And we're not perfect, and we're not God. So I don't know. Just something to think about. First of all, like, be careful how much you put into AI, because can you really trust what it is you're getting? And is it making you a better person? And if you can't trust it and it's not making you a better person, then be careful how you use it. Now, I'm not saying like we shouldn't use it as part of our jobs and part of life to make us better. It is a tool, right? And as long as you use it as a tool, it's fine. But if that tool is deciding for you so that you don't have to decide for yourself, that becomes a problem. That becomes a big problem. Is it the beast of Revelation 13? I don't know, but it might be. So be careful in how you use it, how you interact with it, and what you turn to and believe and follow, because it might be more than just a soulless computer. It may be a fulfillment of a prophecy of basically Satan itself. Anyways, thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk, and I look forward to talking to you next time. God bless.